Welcome, everyone. We're diving into a really fascinating book today, The Silent Miracle. It's by Ron W Rathbun.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one.
Yeah, in the first couple chapters here, Rathbun really digs into this concept of the Kelee.
The Kelee.
Yeah, well, he describes it as this source of peace within each of us, and he teaches us how to tap into it through meditation.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he starts off by saying that all those things we typically chase after, success, money, possessions.
The American dream.
Right,
Yeah.
right. He says those things don't actually lead to happiness.
That's a pretty bold statement, right? To say that the things society tells us to strive for won't make us happy.
Exactly. And, he argues that it's actually spiritual growth, not material wealth, that brings true happiness.
I can see how that might resonate with people. It's like maybe we're all looking for fulfillment in the wrong places.
Right. Have you ever, achieved something you thought would make you happy, but then the feeling just faded away?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all been there at some point. It's like you reach the top of the mountain and you're just left wondering, what now?
Exactly. And that's where this idea of the Kelee comes in. So can you tell us a little bit more about what this Kelee is?
Well, Rathbun describes it as this field of energy that exists within all of us. He says it's the source of our emotions and really the key to finding lasting peace.
A field of energy, huh? Sounds a little mystical.
It definitely has that element to it. He says the best way to understand it is through direct experience, especially through Kelee meditation.
So it's not something you can just read about and fully grasp. You have to actually experience it for yourself.
That's the idea. He's basically saying, don't just take my word for it. Dive in and see for yourself.
Okay, so that makes sense. But if this Kelee is within all of us, why do we struggle so much to find peace? We get stressed, we get anxious, we get caught up in all the drama of life. If peace is right there inside us, why can't we just access it?
Well, Rathbun suggests that the world around us plays a big role. We're constantly bombarded with messages about what we should have, what we should achieve, who we should be.
And social media doesn't exactly help, right? It's just a constant stream of comparison and competition.
It definitely adds fuel to the fire.
Mm.
And Rathbun's argument is that we get so caught up in all of those external things, the possessions, the status, the constant striving for more, that we lose touch with our true nature, that place of inner peace where the Kelee resides.
It's like we get distracted by all the shiny objects and forget to look within.
Exactly. He even compares possessions to sandcastles, beautiful to look at, but easily washed away by the tide.
I like that analogy. It really makes you think about what truly matters.
And it makes you wonder, is it even possible to find lasting contentment in a world that's constantly telling us we need more, more, more?
So true. It's like we're on this never-ending treadmill, and it's exhausting. We've all felt that pressure, right? That feeling of never having enough.
I think so. We're conditioned to believe that happiness is just around the corner, if only we could just get that next thing, achieve that next goal.
But Rathbun seems to be saying that we're looking in the wrong place. That true happiness, that lasting sense of peace, actually comes from within.
And that's where things get really interesting, because he starts to explore the power of our own minds, the way our thoughts actually shape our reality.
He says we have to understand our thought processes in order to truly understand ourselves.
And he breaks down our mental energy into two basic types: resistant thoughts and non-resistant thoughts.
Okay, so resistant thoughts would be those negative thought patterns, the worries, the fears, the self-doubt.
Exactly. And the non-resistant thoughts are the more positive, uplifting ones, the ones that empower us and help us feel good.
So it's like our thoughts are constantly creating our reality. What we focus on expands.
And that can be a powerful realization. It means we have more control over our experience than we might realize.
He also has this really interesting line in the book where he says, when compartments are less in adults, problems will be fewer in children.
Yeah, that one really made me think. Compartments, huh?
Yeah, what exactly are these compartments he's talking about?
Well, he uses that term to describe these pockets of negative emotional patterns that we form in childhood.
Oh, interesting. So it's like unresolved issues or maybe even traumas from our past that we carry with us into adulthood?
Exactly. And he says these compartments can create these buttons that get pushed in our adult lives.
Like something happens and we react in a way that seems totally out of proportion to the situation.
Right. And we might not even be consciously aware of why we're reacting that way. It's like those old patterns are just playing out on autopilot.
It's like those moments when you find yourself getting triggered by something seemingly small and you think, why am I so upset about this? Maybe it's those compartments bubbling up to the surface.
It makes you wonder if we all have these hidden compartments influencing our well-being in ways we don't even realize.
That's a pretty powerful thought. These compartments, these pockets of negative energy from childhood that we end up carrying around with us.
Yeah, it's almost like we're lugging around this invisible baggage.
Right. And it can really weigh us down. I mean, it's no wonder we sometimes react in ways that just don't make sense, in the moment.
It's like our past is hijacking our present.
Exactly. But, if these compartments are so ingrained, how do we even begin to address them? Like, where do we even start?
Well, that's where Rathbun suggests that this Kelee meditation comes in.
Okay, so how does that help?
But he says that conscious will is what we need to understand and then eventually transform these ingrained patterns.
So it's not about just ignoring those compartments or pretending they don't exist.
No, not at all. It's about finding this space where we can observe them without judgment.
Okay, so we're not suppressing those emotions. We're not trying to fight them off. We're just letting them be.
Exactly. It's like allowing those emotions to rise and fall like waves in the ocean, without getting pulled under.
That's a good image. It reminds me of that analogy Rathbun uses in the book where he compares the mind to a weather system.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
He says that our thoughts and emotions are like the highs and lows of a weather pattern. The negativity creates mental storms, and then calmness brings those sunny skies.
So Kelee meditation is like learning to navigate those internal weather patterns, becoming more skilled at creating those sunny days.
Right. So it's not just about seeking calmness for ourselves. It's about creating a more peaceful inner environment.
Exactly. And Rathbun also points out that, all this resistant thinking, all this negativity, it doesn't just affect us, it also impacts the people around us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Our energy affects other people's energy.
Right. And he even uses the term energy vampires to describe people who drain others with their negativity.
Yeah, I think we've all encountered a few energy vampires in our time.
Oh, absolutely. Those people who leave you feeling exhausted and depleted after just a short conversation.
Exactly. So is it possible to protect ourselves from those kinds of draining influences? Like, how do we do that?
Well, Rathbun suggests that we can build up sort of this inner shield.
An inner shield.
Yeah, by consciously cultivating more of a non-resistant energy.
Okay, so we're not building walls or trying to shut people out. We're just becoming more resilient to negativity.
Exactly. He emphasizes that we always have a choice in how we respond to other people's energy. We don't have to absorb their negativity.
So even when we're in a challenging situation, we can choose to maintain our own inner peace.
That's the idea. It's about developing the awareness and the tools to navigate those challenges skillfully. The more we practice Kelee meditation, the stronger our inner foundation becomes, and the less likely we are to be swept away by those external storms.
Oh, that makes me think of something. It's like strengthening our immune system so we're less susceptible to those energetic viruses.
Exactly. And as we cultivate that inner strength, maybe we can even become a source of harmonious energy for others.
I like that. It's like we can break the cycle of negativity.
Yeah, and Rathbun also talks about the importance of living authentically,
Mm.
letting go of the need to justify ourselves to others.
Oh, yeah. He has that great line in the book where he says, when you end the need to justify your life is when you start feeling free in it.
That's so powerful, isn't it?
It really is. I think so many of us struggle with that need for external validation. We're constantly seeking approval, trying to prove ourselves. It can be exhausting.
It's like we're carrying around this invisible weight of expectations.
And Rathbun is inviting us to lay down that burden to just be who we are without needing anyone else's permission.
That's true freedom, isn't it?
So we've talked a lot about the philosophy behind Kelee meditation, but I'm curious to know more about the practical side of it.
Me too. Like,
Yeah.
how do we actually do it? What does this practice look like in real life?
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the silent miracle. We've talked about the Kelee, those hidden compartments, and how our thoughts shape reality.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. But I think we're all ready for the practical stuff now. Rathbun keeps saying Kelee meditation is the key to unlocking it all. But what exactly does that even look like?
Right. So it's not about like emptying your mind or chanting or anything like that.
Okay, good, because I'm not sure I could do that.
Kelee meditation is really all about stillness.
Yeah.
It's about finding that quiet space inside where you can just observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
Just sitting still with my thoughts sounds kind of scary, to be honest. My mind never shuts up.
Well, it's definitely a process. It takes practice, just like learning any new skill.
So we're basically training our attention, building up our stillness muscles over time.
Exactly. And Rathbun says it's totally normal to experience resistance at first. Our minds are so used to being busy,
Ooh.
jumping from one thing to the next. Stillness can feel really foreign.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what about those resistant thoughts, those negative emotions we've been talking about? What if they pop up during meditation?
You don't have to fight them or try to push them away. Just let them be there.
So we're not suppressing them?
Exactly. Rathbun compares it to watching waves in the ocean. They rise and fall, but you don't have to get pulled under.
I see. We're creating that space for those thoughts and emotions to exist without controlling us. But how does all this actually help us change those ingrained patterns, those compartments that are causing us pain?
Well, when you cultivate stillness, you start to see those patterns more clearly. You notice your triggers, your reactions, the stories you're telling yourself.
And then what?
And then you have the opportunity to choose a different response. You're not just reacting on autopilot anymore.
So it's not just about feeling calmer in the moment. It's about creating lasting changes in how we perceive and interact with the world.
Right. It's about becoming more conscious in our lives.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense now. We observe those negative patterns without judgment, and that allows us to break free from them.
And as you do that, Rathbun suggests that you'll naturally start to experience more peace, more joy, more of that authentic well-being. Remember his analogy of the mind as a weather system. Kelee meditation is all about creating more of those sunny days.
Yes, we're becoming the weatherman of our own minds.
Exactly.
But what about those external storms we were talking about, those energy vampires? Can Kelee meditation help us with that too?
It's not about building walls or shutting people out. It's about developing that inner strength so that you can stay grounded in your own energy.
So it's about strengthening our immunity to negativity.
Exactly. And, as you cultivate more inner peace, it naturally starts to radiate outwards. You become more compassionate, more understanding.
This has been such a fascinating exploration of the silent miracle. It's given us a lot to think about.
It really has.
And I think what I'm taking away from all this is that true peace and happiness are not things we find outside of ourselves.
It's an inside job.
Exactly. And Rathbun gives us these practical tools like Kelee meditation to help us access that inner peace.
And he reminds us that we are so much more powerful than we realize.
I love that. And he ends the book with this powerful message. The fearful areas of your mind are only the darkness of illusion. Face your fear with calmness and courage, and you will see your fear for what it is, confusion.
And let go of every fear that isn't you, and you will be everything that is you.
Powerful words to end on.